Welcome to the Retirement Lifestyle Show. I am your co-host, Roshan Loungani, here with Adrian Nicholson today. Eric has called out sick today, I should say. He had having work done on his house. He can't join us. So, Adrian, you and I are driving today. How do you feel about that?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to do another episode. I'm always excited to be here on the Retirement Lifestyle Show. It's been a pretty solid week for the most part. A couple late nights here and there, but no big issues. I was up actually pretty late last night because I was thinking about the podcast. I was thinking about in the future, like if the podcast really picks up a lot of traction, who would be like two people I'd love to have on the podcast and just ask them questions. And I thought that just kept going through it all night. And I came up with two individuals who I'd love to interview that I think would be good on the podcast. I'll start with my first one, who I think would be like a great person to interview. You might get a kick out of this. But first, Roshan, what comes to mind when I say the Oracle of Omaha?
Definitely the number one person on my list would be Buffett. Bring Warren Buffett in. That'd be great.
Okay, now think of this nickname. Who do you think of when I say the Oracle of Memes?
I've never heard of that before.
I,
Who's
I
that?
never heard of it until last night, but the Oracle of Memes is Elon Musk, and I would really enjoy just interviewing him. I love the nickname. That'd be my first question to him. What do you think of the Oracle of Memes? And apparently, he's gotten it because how he is on Twitter, posting about memes, always talking about what's trending, kind of his influence and like the whole like Reddit movement right now. I think is just very interesting. And it's just so many questions about it. I love just to see where he comes from and his standpoint on it. What's his process when he sends out his tweet? What's his whole thing about like posting videos of Dogecoin, a cryptocurrency that he's just been talking about a lot. I have so many questions for him. He's such an interesting person. I think that would be a really fun conversation to have.
I would completely agree with you there. He's definitely someone. When you said people we'd like to interview, he would be on the list for sure. I do audiobooks. I think I've told you that before. I go through a ton of those, and one of them I listened to was the book on him, and they made a great point that there are not too many people that in multiple industries have created these huge businesses that have taken off. You know, they compared him to Jobs in that book. But yeah, I think that'd be a great one. You said you had two. Who's the other one?
Well, before I get to the other one, would there be anybody who you would just love to have on this podcast in the future? Just like if I had this person on the podcast, I'd feel like I made it in the podcast industry.
I guess I'm not sure about feeling like I made it. I thought about the person I'd love to talk to, and the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, would be on my list. Him and Munger would be really fun to get interviewed. I just love, one, their wealth of knowledge. Two, sometimes they're both known for some of their quotes, but they just have some of the funniest responses to questions as well. I remember I've been to the Woodstock of Finance, their annual meeting, a couple times, and I remember at one of them, I don't remember what the question was, but the guy Buffett, it was like a 20-year-old asking a question, and either Buffett or Munger basically said to them, "If I had your age and my money, it'd be a perfect world." And they just seem to come up with answers to questions like that all the time. They're very quotable. So I think that would just be a lot of fun to interview them. I
Yeah, that
don't
would
have a
be.
second one. I need to give it some more thought. How about what's your second?
My second one would be Sean McVay. He's the LA Rams head coach. He's the
Okay.
he's the youngest coach in the NFL, and my biggest question for him would be why did he turn down that ESPN deal? ESPN apparently offered him millions of dollars to give up his coaching position just to be like an analyst for ESPN. And if you think about it, an analyst for ESPN, it's a lot more relaxed job, potentially making a lot more money, and he's a really young guy, so you really think about all the stress coaching could really put on him, could really age him forward. So that'd be one things I ask him. I think that'd be like a good topic on the retirement lifestyle show. Someone that's so young gets offered a lot more money for a new position, maybe less stress, and what would be kind of the factors that make you choose that. I think that'd be a pretty good topic, and also something that's interesting. His fiance went to my college, GMU, so I think that's a pretty interesting connection as well.
Did she? I remember. I think he lived in Centerville, so he. I could be wrong, but when he was with the Redskins, you could have walked to his house and knocked on his door back then and gotten an interview with him.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been really fun. So those were the two people I thought would just be so much fun to just interview and hopefully maybe have on this podcast one day. It'd be really great. But we can move forward to our main topic today. Our main topic that we wanted to talk to and discuss today is cybersecurity and data protection, which is a really interesting and really important topic. The main thing about cybersecurity and data protection is just keeping your private information protected and safe from damage and theft. And if you want to, some of the reasons why it's extremely important, it's just kind of a little bit of a rundown, is that organizations and institutions have been faced with a cybersecurity attack or at some point in the future will be faced with a cybersecurity attack. And it's just really important just to think about it because these are big institutions, big organizations that have a lot of workers, a lot of resources that can protect them and prevent future cybersecurity attacks or some hacker just trying to go after their data. Now, on an individual level, just taking just one person, for example, they don't have as much resources as big organizations, institutions have. They
Hold
might
on.
not have the knowledge and expertise to really combat that. So just talking about what you could probably do on an individual level could be really important.
Yeah, and Adrian, I wanted to start out with adding on to your introduction a little bit. We are the retirement lifestyle show, and we cover financial topics a lot, but we also want to cover other areas of importance. And this cybersecurity piece really stands out with how much data is out there and can be captured. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is something like identity theft, right? It can.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you can protect yourself. I've got. We'll share this a resource. Once again, as the retirement lifestyle show, cybersecurity is important for everyone. But I did initially search for ways seniors can protect themselves. Is essentially the search I looked for. But this applies to everyone. I've got a list to go through. Adrian, I know you've got some lists as well. Do you want to start with your list or mine?
We can start off with yours, and like you said, it's just really important where technology is moving more and more forward today. That means people are having their information and their private information more online and using technology to access this information. So that's why it's extremely important for you to be up to date on the trends, know how to protect yourself like these big institutions protect themselves every day from cyber attacks because you don't want your personal information, your financial information to just be looked at or taken or obtained by a third party source. So I think it's really important. So you can start us off, Roshan. I'm really excited about this topic.
Yeah, I said, Eric, if when you're listening, we do wish you were here. This was initially Eric's idea because he had a lot of interesting information to share with us. But unfortunately, maybe we can get a summary from you on some of the ideas you had on the next one. But I'll start with the first item on the list. So this is an article from Protect Seniors Online. We'll share it in the show notes. Please go there to find the link. But the number one item they have on their list is create passwords and make them strong. So that point is not just for where you go online, but it's also just for your devices in general. So oftentimes what people are doing now is they'll have a computer. That computer will not have a password. So you just turn it on. They'll have a browser. In that browser will be stored all their passwords. So theoretically, if that computer is lost or stolen, then someone has access to everything, and they actually don't need a password for anything. So first, make sure your devices have a password on them. Make sure it's a secure, strong password. And the recommendation is at least 12 characters, including letters, numbers, and symbols. and do not include personal information in there. So
Yeah.
secure password for devices and sites. That's the first item on their list. What are your thoughts, Adrian?
Yeah, I like starting off with passwords, just making them as strong as possible. And you do leave yourself vulnerable if you leave it all your passwords in one particular place. That's where it's also good to just have it in multiple areas. It's
Mhm.
extremely important. Just having a very strong password and using trusted devices is a big thing. Say, for example, if you're using a public library and you're using it to log into something that has your personal data or your financial information, one, you're not using a private network, and two, you're using a device that's not trusted. So it's extremely important to be aware when you're logging in or using a password somewhere. Just use it in the safest, most private location that you possibly can. And again, making passwords as strong as possible. And another thing that's kind of newly developed is, I know it's your favorite, Roshan, it's two-factor authentication. Do you want to dive a little bit into that?
Yeah, and that's the second thing on the list on this article is having two-factor authentication or two-step authentication. So what they'll do is you'll go to log into something, and then in addition to the login and password, they'll send you a text message, or if you have an app, a link. I know for our accounts, for the accounts we manage for our clients, it's a login and password, and then it's a message to the phone to click on that, and it uses facial recognition on the iPhone for it. So it's very secure to then add the two factor. Um, that's the second thing on their list, an important one. I was thinking about the previous item, just having secure passwords, and I was just talking to someone about this, and they were saying how they use one password for everything. So essentially, if you break into
Wow.
one, you can sort of get into everything of theirs. And I know in the past I had been guilty of that as well, just because there are so many passwords that they're tough to remember.
I've been
I
guilty of it too. I've
Yeah.
been extremely guilty of it too, because like nowadays, like I said, technology is moving more and more forward. People are using online access for pretty much anything, for social media to their bank accounts to whatever it may be at work. And it's just, there's so many passwords that you have to keep track of. And it's so easy to, am I using the correct password? Is this the password for my other account? Just, you have to be organized as well when you have all this information.
Yes, and I have to agree with you completely on that. I've never used any of these other services, but there are these password services out there that will create passwords for you. I have heard of LastPass as an example. I have clients that have used them, but I can't say that I have any personal experience with it. But it might be something worth looking into, to have secure passwords for everything. But then you need a password for LastPass, and you want to secure one, and one you won't lose.
Yeah,
uh
exactly. And then the last thing, it's kind of a little bit of joke on passwords, and we can move on to your list, is when you're typing in a password and you get it incorrect. So you decide to change it and you go through all the steps and you type in a new password and the message pops up. Your new password can't be your old
oh
password.
yes.
That's the most classic joke with it. So that's pretty good.
I have had that happen before to me. So yes, I've been a part of that joke. Um, Next on this list, it says think before you act. Emails and communications that create a sense of urgency, such as a problem with your bank account or taxes, are likely a scam. Consider reaching out to the source. I've actually received emails from before that uh, someone's email got hacked, and they sent an email to their entire contact list, and it said something like, "I don't have access to my phone. I'm stuck somewhere. Please send me money." Right, and I'm sure everyone's heard of the scam. I think it's the Nigerian prince scam, that you get emails from them saying they need money and they'll send you millions. If it seems like a scam, it probably is.
Yeah, that's a good point, and you bring up a some pretty good topics and themes that I just want to go over. Where a common term is phishing.
Yeah.
And this is where it seems like a reputable source, a business, or something that looks very legitimate. And then they reach out to you when really on the other end, it's just a hacker trying to get your information. I think that's something that is really important. And then it's the whole thing, you have to think before you click. This is the kind of new phrase that they're using to help people like combat cybersecurity attacks, hackers, or whatever it may be when people are trying to get your information. Think before you click. If something seems suspicious, it doesn't hurt to just maybe get a second opinion or reach out to somebody if you're just not sure. Just, hey, does this look legit? What do you think about this? Or just really be careful what you that gets sent your way, because again, your information is very private, and again, it can be very troubling and very difficult just to deal with anything like this is extremely important. And over time, again, as technology moves forward, these hackers get more and more better at what they're doing. A big common thing is putting your private information out there, let's just say on social media, and they'll use the information that you put out there to kind of make their scams a little bit better. For example, you can just say, "Oh, I had a amazing trip, amazing vacation at Cabo," and then you can get an email later on in the week saying, "Hey, you were at such and such place in Cabo, and we need your information." It may seem legit to you. Oh, wow, how do they know this? But again, there are so many ways for people to get your information and use it to you. It's where you really have to think before you click. Just be cautious on when it comes to your information.
Yeah. And what was the rhyme you had with this again?
Think before you click is kind of the big phrase that they're
Oh,
using.
I guess it doesn't rhyme. I just thought the item on the list I have, they say when in doubt, throw it out. But
That's a great one. Yep.
it's saying the same thing. Links and emails you can get if it looks unusual, delete it. And also scammers can make it look like emails come from your friends and family. So sometimes if it looks like a strange email from them, I don't know if you've experienced this. I also feel like text messages are starting to do the similar thing where you get strange text messages. Just delete them, don't click on them.
Yeah, I've that's actually been happening to me recently, where I just get these just strange messages just out of nowhere, and the best thing you can do is just delete it if you don't recognize it, and it can't happen to anybody. I mentioned on a previous podcast that at the start of quarantine, my Twitter got hacked, and then it just sent out a sale of sunglasses to all the people and my contact list for my Twitter. I'm glad I wasn't really big on Twitter, that I didn't have that many people, but it's super annoying. It can be super frustrating when it happens. Just to really guard your information, update your passwords. I think a big thing, it might be on your list, is having your contact information also up to date on certain social media websites, your financial information, whatever it may be, making sure that your contact information is up to date so you can get alerts. Your information is going to the correct place where it needs to be is also really a great step to help protect your data and make sure that your information goes where it needs to go.
Yeah, my what is it that you were selling that on your Twitter that they hacked it for?
They were Ray-Ban sunglasses. It was just a link that was sent out to everybody, and it was just really unfortunate. But it's in the past now. It's taken care of. I no longer have a Twitter. I'm a little bit bummed out by it, but it's not bad. Just being off of social media a little bit more, and
Yeah, the
I
hacker
guess it
got
kind of
you.
did work out because I told the story enough that I got a gift of Ray-Ban sunglasses, so
Oh,
it worked
nice.
out. Yeah, it worked out in the end, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. My brother-in-law had the same thing happen to him. I think it was on Instagram though, with Ray-Bans sunglasses. Um, Next, you actually touched on this with the social media stuff, but they say once again they're using a rhyming title. Share with care. It's adjust your privacy settings to limit who can see your information, and just be careful of what you put online. Finally, avoid sharing your location. So
Yeah.
when you post stuff online, and Adrian, I'm going to ask you because you would know this better than me. Is the standard when you post something online for it to share where you are at that moment?
It is becoming more of a common trend, and it's just something you should think about more. I know it's very common with apps. Sometimes, if you download a new app or whatever it may be, it asks if it could use your location or share your location, whatever it may be, and that's something that you need to decide whether you want your location shared or you don't want it to, and it's you might not have a choice unless you go into like a settings or disable it. So that's something also to consider and be aware of. It's extremely important nowadays where our phones are just, if you take them back a couple years ago, they're just amazing, and when it comes to location, transmitting data, sending messages, where it has so much of your information, so it's always so important to understand what's enabled, what's not, what you're sharing and what you're not sharing. So it's always good to check out your settings or look a little bit into it to see if you're indirectly doing it or not.
Yes, yeah, and if that's the standard, I imagine that unless you actively go in and change it, that it's going to
Yes.
be shared. Next, use security software, and this is something that people I think are used to on their computers, but you get it for your phone as well. So just having security software to protect you from, yeah, antivirus software, anti-spyware software. Just make sure you are protected.
Yeah, that's a really big one. One of the like kind of new ways that our hackers are being able to look at your data, or they call it eavesdropping, where if you don't have it disabled or you're not exiting out all your screens, or you don't have the right virus protection on your computer, they could be monitoring what you're doing, your actions online, whatever it may be, and that's why we talked about earlier in the podcast. It's really important to use trusted devices and private internet connections. Those are always key to making sure are keys in order to keep your information private, and just taking an extra step in order to protect yourself against hackers or attacks.
Yeah, yep. And the software can definitely help with that. Next, it's got adjust your browser safety settings, and what they're suggesting here is to um, first adjust it for optimum security, so you can look at your security settings. And second, there's actually saying clear your browser history every time at the end of every session, so you don't leave a trail of sensitive data. um, I probably haven't cleared my browser history settings since I got my computer, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like these are just small little steps that can go in an extremely long way. Just doing whatever you can to really protect your data, I think, is a really important, and it wouldn't hurt to just have a conversation about it, because again, this could affect everyone in your network. If you have a family, it'd be a great conversation just to have with your children or your grandchildren or whatever it may be. Just a conversation with your significant others, saying, "Hey, what can we do to protect our information? What can we do? What are steps that we can take that we make sure that what we post online is what we want to post online, what we don't want to post online? How can we make sure it doesn't go online?" Just taking all these steps you can and just having the conversation now, because again, when I was growing up, I didn't have these big iPhones and computers that could access this information, so I was protected in that way. But now, as technology progresses further, people are getting more phones at younger ages. People are managing their assets online now as they move into retirement. It's Technology is definitely taking a step forward, so it's worth having the conversation to just to add that layer of protection in your close network. It's pretty important, because you do hear scary stories of people being extorted because hackers got their private information, and now they're demanding money to get their information back, or whatever it may be. And this can happen on all levels, whether you're a big executive of a company, whether you're retired and not working, or you're a high schooler, whatever it may be. This can affect you at all stages in life.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of things there. One of the scams you mentioned earlier is phishing scams. I learned through looking into this that there's a scam called whaling. Have you heard of that one?
I love these terms that they give them, whaling, but no, I've never heard of it. But I'm really eager to find out what whaling is, Roshan. Please, I need to know.
Well, yeah, it's just like phishing, except they say they target C-level executives, and then they'll send emails. And apparently, Snapchat CEO got caught in this, where they somehow hacked into the Snapchat CEO account and sent mass emails to the employees and obtained a lot of sensitive information that way.
No
So
kidding. Wow. And it shows, like, if the Snapchat CEO can get his information hacked, it's showing how you also need to take steps to protect yourself. It doesn't matter what, again, how tech savvy you may be, where it can happen. But wow, yeah, that is a really interesting story. And it's also, if you're involved in the cryptocurrency space, you might know this as well, where this is also an issue as well when it comes to protecting your currency. Can you maybe dive a little bit into that for our listeners, Roshan?
yeah, when we talked about that briefly on our previous episode on cryptocurrency, or and crypto assets in general, but um, getting a crypto wallet and making sure that your cryptocurrency is not sitting on whatever site you use or app you use to trade it, but it's actually offline in that wallet. Now, as there have also been stories recently about people forgetting their password for that crypto wallet, make sure you know the password, because if you lose the password, you lose the crypto asset altogether. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's crazy thinking about. If you don't know your password, you won't have access in this case to your currency. And then did you say there was like a story where like a consultant will reach out to you, say, "Hey, I can figure out the password," but then they'll ask you for like a substantial amount of the maybe your assets or your cryptocurrency.
yeah, well, and I don't think this is a scam, but there was a story of someone who had literally hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm looking at it. I think if I did a quick search, but I think it was uh, someone that, if this is the right person, because I did find the story, but Stephen Thomas was the person's name, German-born programmer who had $220 million on
Wow, that's incredible.
yeah, on the wallet, and he couldn't remember the password. And I don't remember if this happened to him, but someone contacted him. His story of not knowing the password and only having one attempt left, I think, is this guy that got famous. And then someone contacted this person and said, "Hey, I can help you figure it out for 10% or something." I don't remember the numbers, but if I was him, I would take the deal. I just need to catch back up on that story to find out if this is the person that in fact got contacted and if the password was figured out. Um, but yes, if you've got that cryptocurrency, having a crypto wallet to keep it online will definitely be the smart move. And I would compare it to imagine having a wallet full of cash. If you lost it and you couldn't find it, well, someone else got all that cash. This is similar. Whereas if you lose it, all your currency is gone. However, if you add the password, it's just like losing it if you can't remember the password.
Yeah, exactly. And that also brings up another thing I found. It's another sort of like attack that hackers can do. It's called denial of service, where, and in that story's case, where he had one more password attempt, where if people can figure out your login information or just your username, they can in theory just lock you out of your account by just putting in incorrect passwords. So this shows you not only do you need to keep track of your passwords, but also even your username. In some cases is extremely important.
Yes, and I've got a list of scams for us to go over as well. I've got three more items from the Protect Seniors online site, or three more tips from them on their list. The next one is use a default firewall security protection on your computer. If you're using like Microsoft, if you're using Windows, it comes with the firewall security to protect you. If you use the software we mentioned earlier, any kind of security software, that'll have a firewall as well. So make sure that's turned on to help protect you. Um, Number 9 is pretty basic. It's just it says remember to log out when you're done using something. So people, whether you have that computer with no password on it at the moment and you just don't log out of something, someone else can get to it. Similar to keeping the password stored in a browser.
Yeah, and that's again, I just want to emphasize the point of just using those trusted devices, using devices that are connected to your a private internet is just extremely important because all it can take is just one time and then of you just not logging out and then they have access to your information. Just being ordered, put those safeguards in place. Take the necessary steps of logging out. Sometimes I'm guilty of that, not just shutting my computer down all the way or not logging out of one of my social media accounts. It's just always making sure that you're taking the steps in order to protect yourself and your information because a lot of people do a lot of hackers are out there just to get in private information.
Yeah, I remember this was a long time ago, probably 20 years ago, where twice I know people had left their emails up, and then a friend, as a prank, sent an email from them to everyone else. So yeah, that leaving things, forgetting to log out of things, that's nothing new. And I guess back then it was more, I at least I think, used for pranking, whereas now you can lose serious information, data, money, you name it. Um,
Yeah, exactly right, Roshan. Yep.
the last one on their list, it says consider support if you don't feel as knowledgeable. Family members, adult family members, friends, grandchildren, they I'm sure can help you with that. So that's the last item on their list. I have another site, which is safetydetectives.com. On their blog, they've got one titled The Ultimate Internet Safety Guide for Seniors. um, Once again, it can be used by everyone, but I just wanted to go through some of the scams they listed on there. Adrian, did you have any other best practices or tips before we move on to some of the scams that we've seen out there?
We can move forward. I kind of integrated some of them on the topics that you brought up. I mean, I was right there with you with some really great content and information for our listeners to take that level of protection. But then we can move on to the last article that you have or the last resource that you have. I'm really excited to hear it.
Well, we mentioned the phishing already, which or the whaling, which is where they try to steal personal information via some kind of email. But some of the other scams they have are the first one is security software scams. You'll get a pop up saying that your security has been compromised, and they'll tell you to install software. And then if you install that software, which is usually something fake, they have access to your information. They can literally watch everything that you do. So what they're saying is never click on a pop-up box if it tells you your computer is infected. Uh, it says run a virus scan using your own software versus clicking on the pop-up.
Yeah, exactly. And this seems very familiar to also just like sometimes it's like automated phone calls that you could receive. I think is also a common trend where it might not just be on the internet or an email you receive or a link. It can, like we talked about earlier, it could be a text message or it could be an automated phone call, which may seem legit at the time or may seem like correct where you need to take action. Again, what they do is that sense of urgency to get the information. I think is really important. So you just be aware it can come from many different angles, and again, the common theme is it's through technology, it's through either your computer, your phone, or whatever it may be. Anywhere where you have your private information online is just the common trend.
Yes, yes. Next scam, lottery and competition scams. You get an email saying you've won a lottery that you don't remember entering. And that's the first point. You can't win a lottery you don't enter. So uh, ignore these emails. What they'll typically do is say, hey, you've won this. Give us your bank account or credit card information so you can pay a processing fee, and so your winning can be transferred to you. And then they take this information and they start using your bank account or your credit card for whatever they want.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a common one. I've never seen one of those before, but I bet they probably put in the email just a substantial amount of money that they want you to focus on and just disregard all the other basically shady stuff in the email. And we talked about it earlier on the article. This is why it's just so important. Where if you do see something about like this and you're just not sure, it's always better just to get a second opinion, just to reach out to somebody and let them know if you're unsure. Again, we just want to bring home the common think before you click, before you take action, whatever it may be. It's better to hesitate, to think twice about it than to just go forward with it immediately.
Yes, yes, definitely be careful and realize if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Um, Next, romance slash catfishing scams. This says this is where someone pretends to be someone you know, and and they then try to get money from you. In in 2018, it says there were 2,900 cases for over $20 million.
Wow, that's a really crazy amount when you think about it, and it's become that's more of a common trend. I remember there was just a TV show on this of just people just posing to be someone they're not,
Yeah.
just to get information or whatever the case may be. And again, they might have like a conversation with you, and they try to build a relationship with you or whatever it may be, or just get that access to your information. And again, it's hard to tell because they have that disguise of online. You can't physically see them. You don't know who it may be, and that's why it's just extremely important just to just be aware and know that the person may be claiming to be somebody, or maybe claiming to be a certain business or whatever it may be, but you don't have that verification. And if you think about it, nowadays, it's extremely hard too, because people are home more, people are quarantining more, people are being forced to use the internet more to communicate and get their messages across. So that's why it's just we're really emphasizing this point of just being aware on who may be on the other side. If you're not sure, it's really important that you just seek a second opinion, try and figure out what you can do, and just think before you click or take any type of action.
Yeah. Yes. And you mentioned be aware. The tip is they have is the number one defense is common sense.
Hmm.
Some other
Yeah.
things to look out for as warning signs is they refuse to talk on the phone or won't take pictures. The relationship gets too serious too fast. They start asking for money. Social media profiles look bare or newly created, or they have a bunch of excuses. So that's just some of
Hmm.
the things to look out for. The next one with an even bigger cost is the grandparent scam, which has cost, it says, about $328 million per year. And what will happen is a grandparent will receive a call or a text from a grandchild that say they are desperate and they're in jail or at a hospital or trapped, and they need money to get away from whatever the situation or get out of whatever situation they're in.
Yeah, again, the common theme with this is they try and create that sense of urgency is key to that. Just trying to make you react quick, trying to keep you from going to maybe a third party source to try and validate or verify who this may be. They wanted you to, again, they try and create the sense of urgency, like Roshan said, to not create that common sense or make you think twice, or to get you to click on it or send money, whatever it may be, is just there's warning signs that you should really look into that we hope that we went over, that you can again put these guardrails in place to protect yourself and or maybe the people around you, or again create that conversation that it might not be necessary now, but in the future could really help someone protect their data that they keep online.
Yep, you definitely need to be careful out there when you're online. Those are the list of scams that we had. Those scams, just sort of by title, or those phishing, security software, lottery, romance/catfishing, and the grandparent scam. Those are some of the common ones. We will share the links to both of these articles, but be careful on there. You're pretty much always online now, especially with smartphones, and you just want to make sure you are safe and protected. Adrian, do you have any parting thoughts or anything that you'd like to add?
It's been great, Roshan. I like some of the common tactics that we came up with today that can help maybe protect our listeners when it comes to their valuable data, their financial information, whatever it may be. Again, it's a conversation worth having because, like you said, Roshan, nowadays it seems like our information is inevitably going to become more and more online as it comes on with just our phones, our computers, whatever it may be. So just taking the time now just to protect you in the future is extremely important.
Yes, take care of yourself online. Be careful in the real world and the virtual world. And thank you for joining us for another episode of the Retirement Lifestyle Show. We will be back next week for you with another interesting topic. Please like, subscribe, tell your friends and family about us. Give us 5 stars. This has been another episode of the Retirement Lifestyle Show.